Imagine life without instant news, without seeing a loved one across town in 3 seconds. Our predecessors relied on smoke signals and slow postal routes for connection. But then, something changed. A web of invisible threads was spun, fundamentally altering how humanity communicates and remembers. Before we could check global stock prices from a phone in our pocket, every piece of communication, every idea, every urgent message had to take a physical journey. Imagine life where the most immediate disaster notice or revolutionary political manifesto traveled at the speed of horseback messenger, sometimes taking weeks to cross rough terrain. The greatest library knowledge was bound in calfskin and transported by ox cart, creating massive information bottlenecks that defined human experience for millennia. For centuries, if you wanted to know what happened across the ocean, you had to wait patiently for a ship, a process fraught with danger, delay, and pure uncertainty. Letters written from the American colonies back to England could take months, sometimes exceeding 3 or 4. Geographically, this distance wasn't just a measure on a map. It was a practical barrier that shaped entire cultures and political realities. Ideas moved at the pace of sailing vessels, forcing civilizations to develop slow, careful patterns of communication and trade. That profound lack of real-time connection meant human lives were fundamentally governed by patience, proximity, and the predictable cycles of the natural world. Believe it or not, the digital world we live in today didn't emerge from Silicon Valley garages. It was born out of military necessity and Cold War paranoia. The early 1960s were years of technological anxiety, demanding radical new ways to communicate that couldn't be easily destroyed by an opponent. This pressure led government agencies like ARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, to fundamentally rethink how information traveled between computers. Their core breakthrough wasn't a single device, but a concept: packet switching, the revolutionary idea of breaking large messages into small digital chunks that could travel independently and find their way to the right node. Initial prototypes were painstaking exercises in wiring, linking powerful mainframes housed at various universities and research institutions. This nascent network was christened ARPANET, connecting pioneering sites like UCLA with Stanford Research Institute. The first successful electronic message transmission occurred in October 1969, a handful of characters exchanged over those groundbreaking yet clunky copper wires. These early nodes were essentially nerve centers for military and academic minds, proving that geographically separate computers could talk to one another seamlessly, laying the foundational groundwork for everything modern internet connectivity ultimately became. But before we had constant streams of video chats or endless social feeds, there was a quiet revolution happening that fundamentally changed how we thought about distance itself: electronic mail. The concept was radical because it detached communication from the physical constraints of time and space. Suddenly, you could send a detailed personal message to someone hundreds of miles away, and they didn't have to be available to receive it immediately. It arrived when they were ready. Early systems evolved greatly, but the breakthrough that made it truly accessible was often credited to people like Ray Tomlinson in 1971, who is widely recognized for implementing the use of the symbol to separate the user from their machine name. Think about that. A universal addressing system built on text could instantly connect solitary minds. What started as a clunky, academic tool for sending data packets soon morphed into the primary extension of our personal letterbox, making rapid, private correspondence accessible to everyone, forever changing the pace of human connection. But before the web, the concept of the internet itself was still deeply academic and clunky. While data could certainly travel across early networks via standardized protocols like TCP/IP, accessing it felt less like browsing a website and more like speaking fluent machine code. The true watershed moment arrived in the late 1980s and early 1990s with Tim Berners-Lee at CERN. He didn't invent the internet, but he invented how we used it. the World Wide Web. By developing HTTP, HTML, and URIs, the fundamental building blocks of web pages, he provided a universal language for information sharing. Suddenly, connecting vast networks wasn't just about blinking lights in server rooms. It was about weaving readable, navigable strands of knowledge that anyone with minimal effort could follow. This shift transformed computing from an esoteric tool reserved for government labs and university experts into something genuinely accessible to the average person, using a graphical browser pointing at those very first CERN pages. Before social media, if you had an extremely niche passion, say 19th century Lithuanian plumbing techniques, finding even one other enthusiast felt like searching for a unicorn. The world was vast and physical proximity determined community. Then came the platforms. Suddenly, your geographical address stopped being your most important membership card. Consider Reddit or early Facebook groups. They didn't just connect people, they created entire virtual homes overnight. People found kinships across continents. A fan of obscure Japanese animation suddenly connecting with three others living in Buenos Aires, Berlin, and Toronto. This wasn't coincidence. It was network architecture enabling instantaneous global empathy. It empowered marginalized voices that mainstream media simply ignored. Whether you were a gamer coordinating cross-country raids or a parent sharing rare medical advice 24/7, the boundaries of us versus them, or indeed, here versus there, dissolved into a flowing current. Our small, passionate pockets suddenly had access to an infinite crowd. Remember when specialized knowledge meant physically having access to an immense institution, an expensive university library full of towering shelves and restrictive card catalogs. If your research topic fell outside those walls, you were largely stuck. Then came a profound shift that felt like alchemy, the democratization of information. Tools like Google Search and massive collaborative platforms such as Wikipedia effectively dismantled the brick-and-mortar gatekeepers of knowledge. Suddenly, the collective memory of human civilization, academic journals, obscure histories, scientific breakthroughs, was accessible from a device smaller than most people's hands. This wasn't just a faster search. It was a radical redistribution of power, allowing lifelong students in rural villages and seasoned researchers in bustling metropolises to stand on the same intellectual playing field. Before 2003, accessing exhaustive information required funding, proximity, and specialized expertise. Now, curiosity is often the only prerequisite for entry. But if the first revolution was about connecting people, this next chapter was about unbinding where those people had to be. Suddenly, the physical location of a desk stopped being the prerequisite for a paycheck. The nascent power of e-commerce gave us platforms like eBay in its early days, proving that millions could shop and sell without ever seeing each other face to face. We saw whole industries, from graphic design houses to customer service hubs, migrate into the cloud. Suddenly, the concept of a commute became optional for millions around the globe, restructuring not just careers, but entire family lives. People started calling it location independence, and the promise was intoxicating. Earn a living in Chiang Mai while being employed by a Berlin-based firm. It changed who could participate in the global economy, allowing skills that were once confined to major city centers to be monetized anywhere with reliable Wi-Fi. The simple act of clicking, "Buy now," became an instant engine for entrepreneurship, fundamentally redesigning our definition of labor and proving that some of the best offices are really just living rooms. And as always, with breathtaking technological leaps comes an equally enormous set of ethical questions. Today, we stand on the cusp of something incredible, the era of advanced artificial intelligence. Imagine a future where AI diagnoses diseases better than any human expert or optimizes global logistics instantly. The potential is nothing short of transformative. Yet, this power demands caution. We are quickly seeing the unsettling rise of deepfakes, synthetic media, that can fool even our best critical instincts, making it incredibly difficult to trust what we see or hear online. This isn't just a technological problem, it's a societal one, requiring us to redefine what truth means in the 21st century. The greatest challenge ahead is not technical, but collective, overcoming algorithmic addiction and cultivating radical digital literacy among every user. If we don't proactively debate issues of data privacy or governmental oversight, these tools could amplify inequality rather than solve it. Ultimately, while the code continues to advance, our human wisdom, our ability to legislate empathy and remember our shared humanity, must be the most important update. The internet hasn't just given us tools, it has fundamentally changed what distance and community mean. We are no longer defined by geography but by our bandwidth of connection. As we build this digital future, remember that the greatest innovation isn't the code. It's how we choose to use the power of being instantly connected.